Hopefulness 2.0, July 23rd. Today we're going to take a small trip into the room where it all happens. In the bedroom, where nothing happens other than sleep and everything else that I do in my life for the most part. So, I was watching a video. Where's it at? Where'd it go? Here. Let's see if I can rewind. So, I say watch, it was more listening. It's maybe not the best photo. Best image. Okay. This is probably the best. So this is Clover. She is a now deceased ASMR artist if you want to call it that. And I like this specific video because I like the sounds she makes. Now it's a kissing video where she's like kissing and it's like, it even says here, hold on a second. And I know this all sounds probably weird to some people, but kissing sounds ASMR, personal attention, soft-spoken, cute, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's, as I was listening to it and just kind of relaxing, I had been doing some dishes and started, making my my next batch of bread and all that. It reminded me of something. Something that I wrote. Like, while not equivalent, it was similar. And so I wanted to go ahead. This is actually an interpretation of a dream that I had in the past that I then wrote into effectively, sort of my 365 entry writing diary that I had been building some time ago and never completed. So, interior room night. A dark figure sits in the middle of the floor. Large and small shapes of furniture, clothes, and possessions are barely discernible. Close examination reveals that the room is extremely unkempt. Mine, probably not as much. A bright blue-white hologram emerges in front of the dark figure, illuminating their face, revealing a young man, early 20s, unshaven for weeks. His hair is greasy and slicked back, face sunken in. Stained and decrepit clothes hang from his bony shoulders. He appears nervous and melancholy. The hologram is a young woman, early 20s, in a sundress and flats, and I'm pretty sure she's wearing something akin to a sundress in that video. I wouldn't doubt it. She's smiling and stands with impeccable posture, arms behind her back, bending at the waist. She leans in and kisses the space in front of her. The young man leans up to kiss her and misses. Upset at this, his face contorts to disappointment. The hologram stands up straight. Hologram, this is for you, baby. Stretching her arms wide, the hologram begins a dance routine. Intercut between close-ups of the young man and the full shots of the dancing hologram during the routine. Just kind of common, back and forth. Screenplay assignment that I wrote, and I got like an okay grade on it because I fucked up part of it. The hologram does a jump, nearing the finale. The image glitches out as she takes off and returns to normal when she lands. So when she jumps, the hologram glitches, and it only fixes when she's landing. So you never see the full jump. The young man expresses anger at not seeing the jump, then shifts to sadness. Intercut between full shots of the dancing hologram and close-ups of the young man. As she decreasing the time between cuts towards the finale. So it's like the young man sighs, turns on the hologram, and picks up a sex sleeve near him. Hologram, this is for you, baby. Master shot of the young man and the hologram. Young man moves the sex sleeve into his lap. You're probably seeing it more from kind of behind or the side. Grunts and moans come from the young man. The walls of the rooms are illustrated from the flickering hologram. Intercut numerous printed screenshots of articles. This is where I got fucked up. Hanging on the walls of the room. Articles show images of the girl in the hologram with headlines of pop star missing, manhunt, boyfriend suspected, fan arrested, multiple stalkers, pop star found dead, etc. as grunts and moans continue. Fade to black. Oops. So what the fuck does that have anything to do with anything? Well, it just me rewatching that video over and over, because I don't watch it all the time over and over. Sometimes it's, maybe a few hours at a time. Sometimes it's just I fall asleep to it, whatever. And it's not the only one. But just now, when I was kind of chilling, just relaxing from, cleaning up some crap. Because, I got all those dishes that I cleaned up. I got all those dishes I got to clean. got pizza I'm gonna make. Chocolate chips I'm gonna eat. And some water. You know, there's a lot of overlap in that story, and it's really fucking weird. Because I wrote that, like, I want to say probably sometime in 2015. The original short story isn't all that. It's a really brief thing that I did, and then for the for the screen or from the media writing classes when I decided to write it as a short a screenplay. And the reason I fucked up on the screenplay part is because you weren't supposed to have any kind of like words on screen kind of thing. And I was thinking, like titles and stuff like that. Apparently, none of it was allowed, which is kind of unfortunate. But it wouldn't have really told the story that I was hoping for, unless I had gone, I had shots elsewhere. Which would have been doable. It's just I wanted it all in the same room because that's where the dream was. And, there's a sort of obsession that's supposedly, that's implied. Like, he has this hologram, and obviously this is, sometime in the future when holograms are a thing. And replayable, kind of like a YouTube video would be. And, you have this person who is obsessed with a pop star. Now, I wouldn't consider myself obsessed with Cloverus. I like some of her work. And that video just happens to be one of the newer ones that I recently found by accident, which was kind of cool. And yeah, it's weird. I'll admit, ASMR is fucking weird for a lot of people. And yes, there's a lot of stuff where, and especially when like, it was a big thing and it was exploding and people were like, dude, this is like so sexual and stuff. And I'm like, I get it. But at the same time, each to their own. I'm not out there judging people for basic shit. I don't expect to be judged either. I mean, I expect to be judged, but at the same time, I'm also kind of judging myself. I don't know. Anyway, and part of it is because of the relatability with that dream and that story and everything, and then this situation. And it's like she leans in and kisses. Now, did I lean up to the screen to kiss her? No. It almost sounds like I'm trying to defend myself against, I don't know, unknown assailants? I'm not sure. All I'm saying is that I thought it was really fascinating that I not only had that dream, and it was actually tied to previous iterations of stuff. Like it was... So I used to have this sort of sci-fi story in my brain. And it all started from when I had a conversation with a friend of mine and how, we discussed the way that we kind of like look at stuff and understand things. And it's actually where he told me that I was more of a complete learner, not a slow learner, in his words. And maybe he's just bullshitting me, I don't fucking know. But I took it and I ran with it. And that was when I was a security guard back in Texas. And I had a lot of free time to myself. And I would think about a lot of stuff for whatever reason. So I started thinking about what he was talking about, how I learned things. And it started coming up. I started coming up with this weird story of like this person who, was like, because I couldn't actually see them, it was sort of a daydream type thing. And I was imagining that they were walking around this sort of desolate city, dropping these little weird light balls that would bounce up in the air and then sort of scan the place. But then they were also able to sort of, do hologram recreations of what the area might be. And so each time you dropped a little ball of light on the ground, it bounced up and it hit a specific, point in the air. It would calculate all that information and it would effectively rebuild the city. A holographic reconstruction, if you will. And in it, at one point later on, is when I come up with, that whole thing had been running around in my head for years. And, I would play like Minecraft every now and then, and sometimes it would stimulate that, and sometimes it would overlap when I would be playing Minecraft and be thinking about it or whatever. And it was really fascinating, like that story, and I had honestly hoped that maybe at some point it became a reality. But I mean, the way that most of the stories go on in my head don't really have a story. They're more just world building. And it would just be kind of like, I don't know, like concept art, but in three-dimensional form, like a concept film, if you will. You know how like you go to car shows and all this stuff, and they have all these concept cars. They're never gonna make it to the street, and it's just like fashion. You know, you have fashion shows where they produce fashion that will never hit the street, but elements of fashion at those shows will hit the streets. Somebody will be inspired and say, hey, I like this portion of that idea, and I think it would work well for this season and this type of outfit, and so on and so on. But it was always in my head that, you know, I really liked the idea that this story could become a reality. And it hasn't. And that's actually kind of okay. You know, it's a really neat story. If I ever got down to somehow breaking it down and making sense of it again. But it's been, forever, man. Almost 15 years since I even first started on it. And most of it has been in my head, and some of it's been written down in some way or another. But that piece, and like I said, it's been going on for a while. Well, that one little piece that I've been talking, you know, that I broached subject today and everything, was sort of like a smaller portion, potentially, story of what was happening. It first came about as just effectively a holographic relic that this explorer that came into this unknown city, and when I say unknown, like, it's so unknown they might as well be in Tron, because like there's no sun, there's no real trees, it's just like this, it's basically in a bottle, because I never really expanded on and developed the nature of this. It was just concept of how to build the city through this idea that my friend had told me about the way that I think and about the way that I thought I think. And it was just a visualization that I was piecing together with my, you know, my adoration for sci-fi and the like. And, you know, just compiling so many things together and coming up with this thought, this concept. And in it, there was this point where I imagined this pretty androgynous person, because again, I could never see them, and I was like, if I ever made a movie, I would want them to be somewhat androgynous. I would want them to be, you know, like lithe and fit, and, you know, whatever outfit, like, it'd be kind of like this futuristic sort of environmental exosuit thing, so it doesn't look, but it's form-fitting, but it's not so form-fitting that you know exactly what their gender is by the way they walk and everything else. Like, I wanted them to be unknowable. And this was even before I, like, appreciated and understood, like, transgender people in it. I didn't hate per se. I had some in the past, and I was transitioning away from the hate, but it wasn't full-on acceptance, and, you know, concepts of pronouns and stuff like that. Those things were still pretty much unknown to me, and I'd make fun of people, you know, and I would, you know, I saw some ton of shit on Tumblr, and then I would go to Tumblr in action on Reddit when the time actually came for me to go to Reddit. And so, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff that was going on. And being exposed to, like, Lady Gaga, for instance, helped with the whole concept of androgyny, because, like, in her telephone video when she's in the jail and she makes out that one chick, she, like, there's a behind the scenes of that specific scene, and she's like, I wanted somebody who was, like, super androgynous. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Because then, like, nobody knows who this person is. And then I even figured out the name of the character. It was Joe. Just J-O. Because it was a perfect androgynous name. You know, there's plenty of Joes that are male and female. And without the E, it could be either one. And so, I mean, like, there were so many things that were involved in this. And this even got me thinking, like, it even got me thinking about my own gender identity at some point. It's like, am I female? Am I a girl? Like, I know I'm not, but these things all started getting me thinking about this stuff. Like, I would say that conversation I had with my friend was sort of it kind of snowballed into all this, and it didn't have that intent by any means, I'm sure. And I'm sure something else could have snowballed. It wasn't only specifically that. It could have been any other things that were also sort of tipping points. But, it was a really fascinating concept in my brain that I continued to try to expand on for years. And that little thing, that little dream happened one day. So I wrote it down. But, it was the dream with the dude who was, jerking himself off with the fleshlight or whatever. Whereas before that dream,